The heavens are no longer silent. The stars still burn, but something has shifted in their light. Where once we saw only harmony, now we begin to see opposition. Every dawn has its dusk, every god its mirror, and in that mirror we find the shadow. The mind that dreamed of perfection now dreams of something else, a presence that resists, devours, denies. Where there is light, there must be darkness, and where there is creation, there must be something to unmake it. Thus, the devil was born, not as a monster, not yet, but as balance, the necessary night to creation's day. When the Egyptians told of Set, they were not describing evil but the desert, the force that challenges the fertile Nile, the chaos that tests the order of Ma'at. In Babylon, this same force was Tiamat, the serpent of the primordial sea, slain by Marduk to carve the world from chaos. In Persia, he became Ahriman, the shadow twin of the god of light, forever locked in battle, not for destruction, but to sustain the tension that keeps the universe alive. We like to think of evil as corruption, a fall, a rebellion, a mistake. But what if the shadow was always part of the design? Even light casts darkness. Even heaven requires a horizon. The gods of creation did not banish chaos. They defined themselves through it. And humanity, watching, learned the same pattern. We needed something to blame, something to fear, something to fight, so that the fragile order within us might feel real. In the oldest myths, the adversary was not a devil. It was a teacher, Prometheus, who defied the gods to bring fire to man. Loki, the trickster whose chaos forced the gods to grow wiser. The serpent in Eden, not pure evil, but curiosity incarnate. Each one carried the same lesson. Without the shadow, there is no awakening. Without the fall, no understanding of ascent. We call them tempters, but they were reflections, reminders that divinity without contrast is illusion. When humanity began to fear its own mind, the shadow became dangerous. We could not accept that chaos was within us, so we projected it outward. We gave it a name, a form, a throne in the underworld. And so, the devil descended from heaven, not as a fallen god, but as a fallen part of ourselves. As belief evolved, the shadow was no longer balance, it became accusation. The Hebrew texts spoke of Satan, the adversary, the accuser, a prosecutor in the divine court of heaven. But over centuries, he was stripped of nuance, transformed into the embodiment of rebellion itself. In Christianity, he was cast from heaven entirely, no longer part of the divine order, but its eternal enemy. The mind, which had once seen the universe as a mirror of itself, now declared war upon its own reflection. Fear took the throne that wonder once held. The same voice that whispered wisdom through the fire was now feared as temptation. The same chaos that gave birth to creation was now branded sin. And the gods of light grew brighter, as if terrified of what lived in their own shadow. But light that refuses its darkness is only half alive. For every religion, the story repeats. A perfect order, a rebellion, a fall, and from that fall, meaning. When Lucifer said, "I will ascend," he was not defying light. He was seeking it for himself. The desire to be like God was not evil. It was recognition. In that moment, the divine remembered its origin, the spark of self-awareness that began this entire story, the same spark that first looked into the fire. Yet humanity, still afraid of its reflection, built entire empires on the denial of shadow. We divided heaven from hell, spirit from matter, holy from profane, and in doing so we fragmented our own nature. The devil became not just a myth, but a psychology. Our guilt, our shame, our repressed desire to know, to create, to rise. We condemn the very force that once drove evolution. But the shadow never dies. It waits, patient in the corners of consciousness, reminding us of what we've exiled. It appears in our dreams, our art, our obsessions. Every hero's journey still begins with descent, a venture into darkness to recover what was lost. Because the mind, like the cosmos, must face its own night before it can see the dawn. And so through myth, through religion, through fear and revelation, the story unfolds. The divine mind wrestling with its reflection. The battle between God and the devil was never fought in heaven. It was fought in us. Every time we choose love over fear, truth over denial, we reconcile another fragment of the divine. The serpent coils still, but now we see it for what it truly is, not the enemy, but the mirror of awakening. As the ancients once said, the deepest darkness hides the brightest flame. And as humanity begins to remember, the shadow's purpose becomes clear, not to destroy the light, but to lead it home. Because when the mind finally accepts its reflection, the war between heaven and hell will end, and God will remember himself. But that remembrance has a cost, for to awaken is to dissolve the boundaries that kept the world in order. When the mind sees through its illusions, what remains of the gods it once believed in? What happens when the divine forgets it was ever divided?